Game on.
I want him in the games until he dies and play. Acknowledge.
Acknowledge. Master Control.
End of line.
Howdy, everybody. Thank you for joining me on today's edition of Glen's Retro Show. Well, the AtGames Legendary Ultimate is becoming quite the little machine. People are really enjoying it, adding their own games, playing games that are built in, and even, of course, modifying it. Now, one of the games built into the 350 games is actually a licensed version of the arcade version of Tron. And, of course, I have my Tron built unit right here with my Tron Joystick, because to play Tron properly, you need a joystick with a trigger on it, as well as your spinner, so you can shoot and remove your arm or your tank turret at the same time. Now, the Legendary Ultimate does have a joystick, it does have buttons, and it does have a spinner. Unfortunately, there's no trigger on the joystick. So when you're playing the game, you need to hold your joystick to move your character, put your hand on the spinner, and you stretch all the way over to the B button to use the game. Now, you can do that, but it takes away quite a bit of the enjoyment factor. But never fret. Glen's Retro Share is here to help you guys with a modification to your Legendary Ultimate to help you play Tron and other games a little bit better and still give you the functionality of your original joystick. Okay, you can see right here, here's my original joystick I created for the arcade 1-up or a regular PC, Raspberry Pi, or Macintosh. It's an 8-way joystick. It does offer you the ability to put on different gates here if you want to do a 4-way, 8-way only, or other type of restrictor gate. It has a button in here, and you see there's two wires coming out of the bottom. One is for your trigger button, and one is for the LEDs that light up the joystick. Now this one right now doesn't have its decal on here, but even up here you can modify this. You can open up the joystick, add a couple of buttons up here, so you not only have your trigger button, but you could, in theory, add more buttons up top. We made it like that, so there's plenty of room there if you want to modify it yourself. The joystick itself also has the ability to be removed. You turn the little restrictor down here, you see the joystick will come right out, and just like so, and you can move it and put it in a regular joystick. However, this original joystick is not going to work properly in the Legendary Ultimate because my shaft here between my lock-in and the top here didn't give enough room. So basically it'd be sitting right like that, and that's not going to work. It's not going to play it all properly at all. So we are coming out with a new joystick right here. You can see the shaft is quite a bit longer than the one in my original design. It's still removable, and right now this is just a prototype wiring. This is my prototype for the AtGames Legendary Ultimate. So the wiring harness is a little bit long, but this harness is going to let you connect the LED and the trigger button to your Legendary Ultimate's hardware without any permanent modifications. Basically, it's just going to be a plug-and-play design. We are going to redesign this cable a little bit because we want the joystick also to be removable, so you can put in a regular bat top or ball top. Basically make it hot swappable between the different types of joysticks. But again, this is just a prototype, just to see how it works in the machine. So let's give this thing a shot in the Legendary Ultimate so you can play Tron the proper way. Let's give it a try. Okay, so Tron, as I said before, is actually built in. It's one of the built-in arcade games in the Legends Ultimate. And you definitely can play it with the control panel as is, just not ideal. The joystick will move your Tron character. The spinner here will work your arm or the tank turret, but instead of A, which would have been more ideal to fire, it's the B button. So you got to kind of stretch over and kind of play it like this, but you can definitely do it. Let's give it a try. Okay, we'll move our tank turret and shoot over here. Try that again. Again, it's not ideal, but it does work. It's definitely, at this level, you got to shoot a lot and still move your arm, so it's a little more difficult, but it's not impossible. And our last level over here, grid bugs. So as you see, you can play it this way, it's just not ideal. Okay, let's see how it plays on my custom Tron machine with the actual Glen's Retro Show Tron joystick. So we'll have our joystick with our trigger built in and our rotary knob right here. Here's the level where having the fire button here will be much easier to play. That's how you do that. So having the proper controls does make the game just feel better. It doesn't make it feel like it's a bit of a chore. So let's see how we can add this technology to the Legends Ultimate by AtGames. Okay, well the first step in the process is we're going to have to take out the control panel. And fortunately it's not too difficult. Now, I never screwed mine in, but if you did, there's a couple of screws on the side of the Legends Ultimate you have to take out, which will let you slide out your control panel a little bit. And then on the back there are some cables you need to disconnect because basically the brains and the controls are both inside this panel here. So you need to disconnect our Ethernet, HDMI, power, wireless antenna, and the two white connectors back here that have a bunch of cables that go to the device. Just be careful with your wireless antenna because out of all of them, that's probably the most delicate. Once that's done, you can very easily remove your control panel, and it's really not hard to modify, take out these joysticks. So let's get to it. Okay, so you have to basically turn this thing over. Now what I did was I just put a couple of large things of tape here just so I can put the trackball in it and just try and make sure nothing's getting too much pressure on it. I always worry about controls getting damaged. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws you take out of the bottom, and this cover will come right off. Now me personally, I don't even put this back on, so I like to be able to access the controls that are down here. But for you guys, I probably recommend you do put it back on because you never know what's going to happen. So let me get another better camera angle here so you can see what's going on in here. Okay, here's inside our control panel. This is our backboard, so we'll know where this backboard is. This is our player 1 joystick, player 1 spinner, the computer, the main brains of the machine, player 2 spinner, and controls over there. So what we're basically doing is we're going to be tapping into, basically replacing this joystick with my joystick, but we're going to tap into the B button, which is the center one in here, and we're going to get power for the light off of the main board here as well. Okay, the first thing we need to do is take out the red ball top on this joystick. You're going to need a flathead screwdriver to keep it from turning, and then we can twist off the red joystick. So I'm just going to grab a screwdriver real quick. Okay, so pretty much all you're going to need is a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver. And I'm going to put this down for a second. Again, this over here is our player 1 joystick area here. Now to get the joystick out, you need to take off the red ball top. And you basically have to put a screwdriver on the bottom here to keep it from turning. And then you can just twist off the ball top. And just be careful when you take off the bolt top because the plastic washers and plastic center shaft will come off with it. It's not going to break anything, but you just don't want to lose anything in case you ever want to go back and put things back original. So when you take it off, you can see the red bolt top and the additional washers. I'm going to put them to the side for right now. Now once that's done, we have the controller wires here, which will clip right onto my controller as well. And then we have our 1, 2, 3, 4 screws we need to take out, and that's when we're going to need our good old Phillips. And again, what I like about the Legends Ultimate is that these screw holes are not directly into the wood. They actually have metal grommets in here, so you can pretty much put this in and take it out as many times as you want, and you're not going to be damaging the wood holding everything in. So everything will always be nice and tight and secure. So I do like that aspect here. Actually, everything they did here was pretty well designed for not only longevity, but also for modding. You can see even in the wood, they used metal brackets, not just gluing it together. So they definitely put some thought into making sure this machine was going to hold up to some pretty rough gameplay, which is very good. I mean, just be careful when you work on this side, because again, this is where all your cables are for your main interface into this controller area. I do hope if they ever do a redesign that the majority of this stuff will end up in the monitor area, because one thing I would have liked to have done, instead of having to do this, I would have liked to have made interchangeable controller panels for steering wheels and stuff, but it's impossible to do right now because all this tech is actually in here. And that's a shame because there's a ton of room in the monitor area back here and a ton of area in the bottom of the cabinet. But I guess they had a reason for doing it this way. I just wish, of course, they had done it a different way. So once that's done, you can see we took out the 4 screws. We can now lift the joystick out, and we're going to just disconnect this cable right here because we're going to need this cable for my joystick. And here's theirs. And again, this is not a bad joystick at all. I mean, it works pretty well, and it can also accept different style gates. But for right now, we're not going to be able to use it, so we're going to put it out over to the side. Okay, once again, here's the original AtGames joystick, and here's going to be the Glen's Retro Show lower part of the joystick. Now you can see right here, there are these 5 pins. That's basically your top. Think of it that way. When you're putting it back in the machine, it was facing to the back of the unit, that's your top. So you can see on mine, I have the same style on here. So we're going to make sure that's facing the same direction, otherwise your controls will not be working properly. So I'm going to put this down for a second. Now when you get my board, there's a couple things you need to be aware of. First of all, you need to remove these 2 little white protectors for shipping. We don't need them, so we're going to take them off, like so. Another thing to notice is on my stick, we're going to make this with interchangeable tops. So the Tron joystick will fit in here, a bat top or ball top will fit in here. But you can see there are these 2 metal prongs coming out here on this plate. We need to turn this depending on how you want the joystick sitting in your machine. So this is designed right now to fit in like my machine, like the my arcade 1-up PC style one. But it's very easy to change. This plate simply comes right off the top. It just kind of sticks in with a couple of holes here. See? And then we have to rotate this so it's facing this way. So we can take that. It's just a metal ring, but we need to make sure that metal ring's facing the right way. So we're going to turn that like so. It's better if I have my hands used here. There we go. So we make sure it's facing the right way, and then we can put it back in place. And again, it just fits in place like this. This way, when it's in the machine, with this facing up, the joystick will go in here properly and lock in place and work properly. It's just something to take note of. That's really all you need to do to this part. Just rotate that ring. If it's not already facing the 2 metal prongs up towards these pins, it should be facing up in that direction. Once that's done, you can take your wire harness, put that right back on. Just make sure you line up the pins, push it back in place. And now, all you need to do is re-secure the joystick. Okay, the screws that came out with the original joystick are not going to be long enough for the Glen's Retro Show Tron Joystick for the Legends Ultimate by AtGames. So in the kit, in the bag with the Tron badge, I've included some longer screws to put in its place. And we're just going to take this out of the bag. Okay, so my screw is not substantially longer, but it's just long enough to make up for the gap of my joystick being a little bit thicker. So once again, just take your time in putting it in, but I don't tighten the screws down initially all the way because I want to make sure the joystick gets centered. So I just put them in just long enough just to get a bite and hold the joystick moving around. You know, you can move it slightly, but with a little bit of force, but not too much force where it's going to break anything. And we're just going to put these all in. Now I would recommend if you have a magnetic tipped Phillips to use that. This is not a magnetic tip, so it's going to be a little fun getting some of these spots in here, but I will get it. There we go. There we go. Again, I'm just going to make it not too tight just yet. And last but not least, then once you put all these in, just have a look at the other side and make sure the joystick, it doesn't have to be perfectly centered, but enough where the joystick's not going to hit anywhere. Because you want to be able to play properly. Alright, so at this point, once your screws are in but not super tight, I would just turn this over and just verify the joystick looks like it's fairly centered in the hole, which I'm going to do right now. And it can go down a little bit, so I'm going to make that alteration right now. Again, just finger tighten it and do a second check. And that looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave it exactly where it is. So now it's okay to tighten it down the rest of the way. Again, you still have to make it super tight. Just so they're not loose. Okay, now the next thing we have to do is slide our Tron joystick through here and connect it to the interface board. Okay, once our joystick's in place, we need to flip this thing back over. So we're going to do that right now. Put it back the original way, like so. Okay, so basically we need to just slide the joystick in here. Again, the interface wiring you're seeing right now is going to be different than the final version. We're going to make it so it's interchangeable. Right now it's just my prototype cabling, so it's going to be all one long, it's a rat's nest if you will, of wiring. So disregard what you're seeing right here for the majority of the wiring, so it's not going to be attached like it is right now to the stick. This will be removable. But for right now, we do need to fish this wire through. Put the joystick down for a second. And just take your time and slide all the wires down into the center of the joystick. Just take your time. If anything grabs, just make sure you're pulling it through without, putting too much pressure on it. Because it should go through fairly easily. One of these wires, again, is for lighting up the joystick, and the other one is for connecting your trigger. Don't get caught on that. There we go. Now, you can see, I'll show you a close up. There's a little notch in the joystick right here. All I need to do is slide this down so the notch lines up. Sometimes you got to return the restrictor plate in the bottom. There we go. And then you turn the restrictor 90 degrees and it locks your joystick in place. So all we need to do now is just basically hook up the LED and the trigger and we're ready to start playing. So we're going to flip this thing back over once again. I lost some of my tape, my protective tape. Put it back over here and come to here and move it over a little bit. Okay, so you can see we have two separate wires right here. One is to be going to light up our Tron joystick, and the other is going to be the interface board. Again, this wire is just my prototype wiring. We're going to make a harness fit in here, but we're going to make this removable down here so you can basically take out the Tron joystick if you want to put in a bat top or a ball top style joystick. Okay, now this one right here is going to be, the red one here is going to be for your LED power. The blue one here is going to be to basically tap into your B button. The B button will still work, but it'll also work with the trigger. So for right now, I'm just going to move these out of the way. Now if you look down here on the computer here, there is a connector that'll say 5 volts right on it, which is actually hidden right here. This is our DC 5 volts. Now if you look at my wire, we have a male and a female. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to unplug this 5 volts from here, and it's going to go into, again, no soldering needed, so it'll go into my quick connector here, like so. There's only one way for it to go in. And then we're going to take the other end of the wire and plug it in. You can see there's a little notch, and we're going to just make sure that goes properly. That's it. So now the LED is going to function. It'll light up when you turn on your machine. The next thing is we need to connect the B button, and I'll have to look. I'm pretty sure this is the B button. I'm going to check real quick. But we're going to basically pull the 2 pins off of the micro switch and tap it in with these leads and go back. So I'm just going to verify. I think this one on the bottom here is my B button. I just want to make sure. And sure enough, yes it is. Okay. So just make sure you're careful. It doesn't matter which wires go where. It's just a continuing wire. But we do need to carefully remove these 2 from the B button. Okay, so once you get your 2 quick connects off of your B button, come over to our wiring harness. Again, this is just our prototype wire harness. It's not the final version. You will see that we have 2 male connectors. So we're going to simply slide these onto the current buttons, like so, and slide over the little rubber harness here so you don't prevent some shorts or buttons that, you know, are not being pressed at the right time, like so. And do that with the other one as well. There we go. On there nice and good. And finally, you'll notice we have a pair on this side here. We're simply going to put those onto the B button, like so. There's one. And number 2. That's it. And then you see there's another connector here. This is not used at all. And you can tuck these out of the way. And technically, we are done. So we're going to put this back on here, reconnect our devices, and see how it works. Okay, normally you'd also put on your bottom panel, but I'm not doing that right now because I do a lot of testing in here. But you can see the joystick is in place right over here, and our wiring harness is going into our main board over here. And all we really need to do is flip this little guy back over, reconnect all of our ports over here, which I'm going to do right now. Get this thing back in here a little bit. Trying this side over here. There we go. And we need to simply reconnect all of our cables here. Okay, so all we have to do now is hit the power button and our Tron stick should light up. And there it is. And we can see our selections up here. Use our joystick, just like you would have used the other joystick. One thing we still need to do is put our little decal on here, and we're going to close shot of the control panel and play some Tron. on game. So let's pick it with our joystick and select it. And we can see that B is fire. You can also use the 2 buttons here to rotate your arm, but no one wants to play it that way. You want to use a spinner. So let's select it. Now me personally, I would like the Tron joystick on this side and the spinner here, because in the arcade that's how it was set up. But for right now, I do have it set up as most people will install it initially. It's not a big deal. If you do want to put it on this side, all you need to do on the main computer board is swap your player 1 and player 2 joystick controls, just like that. And then your player 1 will be on this side, your player 2 will be on this side. But for right now, I am going to install it as would be put in probably by the majority of people. So right now, the Tron joystick is here. It is illuminated with the machine. The trigger button is your B button right now. So if you press B button or the trigger, they will both shoot. And of course, your spinner will rotate your arms. So let's try out Tron and see how it works. You can see the joystick works. And I'm not going to press anything here. I'll move the spinner up just to move my arm. You see the trigger works, but B works as well. That's how you play Tron proper. One of the features we're implementing for the Legends Ultimate AtGames console is not only being able to install the Tron joystick, but being able to swap it out with, say, a bat top or a ball top. So basically what you would do is you would have to go underneath the console here to disconnect the fire button and the light. So we'll do that first. And you have to twist the restrictor plate. But once that's done, the joystick should come out fairly simply. There we go. And once that is out, you can drop in a bat or a ball top. Just gotta find the right groove, like so. There we go. Now you have a bat top. Again, you would have to go underneath to return the restrictor plate. But if you didn't want to use the bat top, of course, you could always use a ball top. Just a couple of features we're adding for the Legends Ultimate by AtGames.
Glen at the Tiny Arcade fan page. Remember, don't admire people too much. They'll disappoint you.
Sit, Blue Blue, sit. Good dog.